Hey you guys, it's Denise, and today I am talking to you guys about laryngomalacia. My child has all of the symptoms. He is now 15 weeks, and now that he's actually in the hospital.
Hi, baby, just awake now.
Okay.
Hi, honeys.
They still haven't diagnosed him with that. They say that he has like a couple of the different components, but that he doesn't have that. I keep asking if he has the laryngomalacia or bringing literature in is because he has all of the symptoms and signs, and so basically they are only treating my child for failure to thrive and respiratory failure. Well, respiratory failure is one of the components that can make up laryngomalacia as far as the breathing goes, as far as getting air into the lungs properly, work of breathing, having chest retractions, tugging at the larynx area.
Down a little bit, let her back.
Okay, baby.
So those are all of the symptoms that my child has, yet he hasn't been diagnosed with LM, which is the laryngomalacia. All they keep doing is just saying that they want to trach him. And so since day one, they've basically been saying that they wanted to trach him, even when they didn't really know what was going on. He was intubated, had a lot of swelling around his neck, and at that time I hadn't did any research because I wasn't sure. I started doing research when he was 10 weeks to 11 weeks just because he ended up in the hospital after a breath holding spell, and which led him to be intubated. We did tell them about my child having breath holding spells before he went into the ambulance, but unfortunately, after he was in their care, he ended up having like a collapse in his airway or lung collapse after 8 failed attempts at that hospital just because they didn't have the proper tools. He was transported by helicopter to the Children's Hospital. And after a while, since he's been intubated for so long, he's going to probably end up needing the support of the machine because right now he's just laying there. I just thought about it, how he's just been laying there for 5 weeks. We tried to extubate him. I just feel like he wasn't really given the chance. They didn't try the CPAP or BiPAP in between just the nasal cannula and intubation. They said that if they were to try the CPAP or anything else, that he would have little reserve, so they would have to probably end up doing it in emergency trach. We just feel like that's just going to mask the problem, and the problem is he has a floppy epiglottis, and that has already been determined. That's inside of his medical records. So if he has a floppy epiglottis, I just want them to fix his epiglottis, or at least try. They just feel like he doesn't have laryngomalacia, but they can't exactly tell me what he has. So that is where we're stuck at right now. So I am desperately trying to get him transferred to another hospital, but transferring to another hospital is just blind because since he's an inpatient, I can't go interview, I can't go have consultations. I have to basically just pick a hospital, and all the hospitals are like 2 hours away, and just hope that the doctors there will listen to me and or come up with something like a diagnosis of as to why my baby cannot all of a sudden breathe on his own when he was breathing on his own without support for 10 weeks, and all of a sudden now he needs to be having some type of support in order to breathe. I just feel like he's not getting the chance that he needs. The last time that they extubated him, his heart rate was very, very high. I already had been asking for them not to give him the albuterol treatments because days before that I had asked the respiratory nurse why he was getting those. I wasn't aware of it at first. So when I noticed that the respiratory nurse was giving him albuterol and Ecommerce treatments, I asked why. She said because he sounded a little coarse on the inside, but she didn't think that he actually really needed them, and so she would go ahead and tell the doctor if we wanted them to stop. I told her, like, I'm not the professional, so I don't know if he needs them or not, but if you're saying that he doesn't really need them, then I guess he doesn't need them, right? Because he's always been sounding coarse. And even after the Ecommerce and albuterol treatments, he still sounds coarse. He probably sounds more clear after that, but then a couple hours later, he sounds back coarse, which is why he was getting the treatments every 4 hours. Well, albuterol makes a floppy epiglottis worse. So I don't want my kid getting that. And then on top of that, albuterol, it was making my child's heart rate go to the 210s and the 220s. That was already having him struggling with breathing, and then on top of that they wanted to give Robenol, and I have figured out that Robenol also was making my baby's heart rate skyrocket because his heart rate was in the 210s and 220s when giving Robenol. Robenol is to like basically thicken up the secretions or kind of clear them up, because when you have the ET tube inside of you, especially like a little baby, they're going to have like spit and stuff that they're not able to really swallow because they have a tube in their throat. So the Robenol is supposed to help those things make my baby's heart rate skyrocket. And so therefore, I just felt like I don't want my kid having that at all. You guys should have something else. Like, for example, if you have a headache, you have choices. You can take Tylenol, you can take Advil, you can take Aleve. Give my baby a different choice. Obviously, this is not what's working. And I just didn't like how the doctors were like just willing to give him those things when on another note they would say like, oh, we need to watch his heart rate, and they had to give him a blood transfusion. And I asked why they had to give him a blood transfusion. Well, not exactly because he needs it, but it would help just in case. And I just keep, basically my kid just keeps getting things just in case. So imagine you have a baby just getting all these medications just in case when he doesn't actually have the problem. Like they're giving my kid Keppra, which is a seizure medicine. They said that my kid hasn't had any seizures, but he had 2 abnormal waves of brain activity, which is like, they're not exactly sure if it was a seizure, but then they said that it wasn't a seizure. I've asked that question many times just to get clarification. Okay, so it wasn't a seizure, but yet you're giving my kid Keppra to prevent it. I mean, just as a precaution. I mean, if that's the case, give my kid every single medicine in the world as a precaution, That's how I'm doing right now. I want to get my baby transferred, but it's hard to transfer a baby when he's inpatient, and it has to be physician to physician in order for the kid to transfer. And then on top of that, if your insurance doesn't feel like your kid will get better treatment at another hospital, they might not want to pay for it. So right now, if my insurance doesn't want to pay for his transfer, then I will be needing to pay the $1,200 so that way he can transfer, because he's intubated. It's hard to just pick up a baby and go. So if you have any information, I know this was a lot, or anything that you can comment to help, or email me, please do, because I really need some answers. Time is kind of like running out, and I did a video maybe last week about how my baby was doing, and so I'm updating you at the same time I'm asking you guys for help. It's just that my kid hasn't been diagnosed with it, so that's why I need a new pair of eyes, so that way they can see my baby. Just message me if you have any answers or anything that can be of assistance in helping me in this situation. I appreciate all the messages that I've already gotten. I am still praying for a miracle. Thank you. Bye.
I'm humble, but your heart rate too high. Okay. Just relax a little bit.
It's okay, baby.